Hi, folks, it's Firm. We're talking about policy, policy, and more policy. Let's define this important word in today's political atmosphere here on Firm. Despite the attempts by the radical leftist wingnuts and now the Communistic Democratic Socialists of America Party and their despots and potential demonic wrecking ball mentality of our once proud and respected U.S. Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and the Declaration of Independence, if you don't mind. Well, here it is, folks. Plain, simple, and direct. What do we have for you? Well, besides what we show you right now, the candidates, of course, for governor. I don't think we're going to be showing Mr. Bennett much longer because I believe he's going to drop out pretty soon, only showing about 5 or 6% of the polls. Bobby Charles is being accused of being 17 to 18 percentage points behind Hannah Pingree over here, which is false. Sounds more like the Portland Press Herald, Bangor Daily News, and the rest of the legacy media in the state of Maine, who could care less about facts and truth. Oh, and policy, what we're talking about. Of course, most recent, coming up recently with the nomination, if you will. Nomination, yeah, right. It's kind of like a kangaroo court of delegates for Maine Democrats up there in Bangor on July 25th to give Troy Jackson the opportunity to challenge Susan Collins when it comes to November. Don't think that's going to happen, folks. From yours truly here. There's a lot of people who think the same thing. Gee, look at him. I think it was like the end of the world for Troy Jackson. Democrats are in a sorry state, folks. We're not going to go off on a rabbit trail. But Susan Collins, as we'll soon show you, has plenty of success in her terms in Congress and in the U.S. Senate. But as far as policy goes, ladies and gentlemen, let's get right to the facts, shall we? That's what we like to do. Truth, facts, reality, and common sense. Before we move on to the next little tidbit that we need to present to you, which I think you'll find very interesting when it comes to the deflectocrats. As far as the word policy is concerned, folks, it is a noun, okay? We'll put it right up there for you. A noun. And the definition is as in procedure, a way of acting or proceeding. It's always been my policy in a statement not to spread rumors. Synonyms and similar words are procedure, strategy, program, course, plan, design, purpose, direction, blueprint, pathway, among others. So as we post it up there, as we continue on with our program regarding policy, folks, give you a little bit more details on it as well. Recent examples of policy are investors will now turn to the Communist Party's Politburo meeting, traditionally held in late July, where top leaders will review first half performance and set policy direction for the rest of the year. That came from CNBC's Anik Bio on July 27th of 2026. Pretty recent. Directors help set strategic direction for the agency overseeing policies, annual budgets, and work plans, says Ann Gelhaus of Mercury News, July 26th. And one more. One of the enduring lessons of the HIV/AIDS pandemic is that the health of nations is not measured by the policies countries enact, but by whether ordinary people demand that every community has an equal opportunity to live healthy, dignified lives. That from Forbes, Jalisha Jolie, July 26th. So needless to say, folks, policy comes in all types of positive and profound ways for people to proceed. It takes a little work, a stable mind, if you don't mind. Policy, as far as the opposite of it, though, folks, this is what the deflectocrats and, God forbid, the Democratic Socialists of America want to keep promoting and pushing to take over 350 million people in this country and stuff everything else in the grinder. But the opposite of policy is chaos, disorder, anarchy, which represent a total lack of rules, plans, or organized guidance. Because, once again, to reiterate, policy means an official rule, a planned method, or wise judgment. Once again, policy means an official rule, a planned method, or wise judgment. Words that mean the opposite, though, describe a lack of order or poor judgment. For chaos and disorder, a state of total confusion with no structure. Anarchy, a society or situation that has no laws or governing rules. Imprudence, carelessness, acting without wisdom, care, or a well thought out plan. Sounding about right, folks? It should. And we're going to move on, ladies and gentlemen, to our friends at the Maine Policy Institute here to really clear things up. Thank you for joining us here on FIRM, Fairness in Reporting Media. Mark Merrill, as always, with you here. And as we put the information up here, you'll notice a familiar face also again in the political realms. I think you recognize Matt Dunlap, who is former, more recent, state auditor. But the Maine Policy Institute recently posted in their monthly impact report, I'm just going to move Mr. Dunlap here a little bit this way, from CEO Matt Gagnon. In this one particular paragraph of his statement, quote, "Our organization believes that a big part of turning this state around is in making a compelling case about the importance of policy to the Maine people. Certain ideas create opportunities for growth and prosperity, and certain ideas inhibit it." Our closing segment here on FIRM, folks, as we said, regarding policy comes from an early Maine policy podcast from early 2025 by Matt Gagnon himself, talking about how former state auditor before former state auditor Matt Dunlap became an important part of the Democrat Party's authority figure. Here's just a segment of that podcast.
So it's a who's who. It's turned out lawmakers. It's people who really have They really have no qualifications for these offices whatsoever. And I think there's really no better, example that illustrates just how goofy it is than Matt Dunlap himself. He previously served in the legislature. Then he became the Secretary of State. Then he became the state auditor, and of course he didn't have auditing credentials or anything like that you need to actually do that kind of work. He had to go to school to earn some credentials. He had to take some tests. He failed them. They had to appoint somebody else on an interim basis. Then he finally passed the test, and then now he became the auditor. And who knows, maybe he's the greatest auditor there ever was, but it's really clear to me that if the people of Maine got to elect these positions by popular election, or if we do what some other states do in terms of a lot of these positions can be appointed by the governor with Senate confirmation, very similar to what we're about to see at the federal level with Trump's cabinet. That process, these these people would not have these jobs. Like, I don't think Janet Mills would necessarily nominate Aaron Fry right now after everything that he's been through. I'm not sure that she would nominate Shenna Bellows at the outset, let alone after everything
certainly bet not.
that has happened in that office over the last probably 6 months or so. So on the whole, it's a bad process. It favors well-connected current and former legislators at Augusta. And these are really, like, I don't think we can underscore enough just how important these positions are. Like, these aren't people who you want partisan hacks who are, shooting for higher office, basically. But that's what we get. We get these people who have lots of political ambition. They want to make a name for themselves, and they fulfill these roles in a highly partisan way that I would say is really counterproductive to, like, the operations of state government. And probably no better example of that, quite frankly, is Janet Mills, who also served in the legislature, was then the attorney general, and fought all the time with former Governor Paul LePage during his term.
And that really related to her political ambition, right?
Yeah, and that certainly didn't hurt her prospects at becoming the next governor after LePage, you know what I mean? So that's the process in Maine. I would say that's also exactly why it's flawed.
Couldn't have said that any better, Mr. Gagnon. Thank you for his input on that, ladies and gentlemen. And lastly, we want to show you a little bit of information here on our other candidate, actually one we've just shown you pretty much recently, Susan Collins. And Ms. Collins certainly knows how to take care of the Maine people. I'm going to show you why here in just a moment. I'm going to make a little bit of an adjustment here as far as the information on this card you see before you. Ms. Collins has always been for the Maine people, and her record shows it. How is that? Well, as we pan back a little bit here, folks, we do show that right here, she's invested millions of dollars in American medical research. Also, has helped to build Maine's economy and create jobs. And a little bit further down the road here, folks, we'll put it on there so you can see it better. Leading the fight against global health and the global health threats like Ebola that most of you, ladies and gentlemen, have heard being publicized lately. So the accusations are just a little bit part of, I would say, an attempt to debunk Mrs. Collins' record for serving the Maine people. Wouldn't you say? Seems to be a little bit one-sided and a little bit of jealousy as far as we're concerned here at Firm. In the meantime, ladies and gentlemen, always, thank you for joining us. We are here for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, as you see on our car around central Maine and northern Maine and southern Maine, northern Kennebec County. We are in southern Kennebec County in the greater Waterville area. Check us out anytime. For truth, facts, reality, and common sense, as we always promote, we are on YouTube, X, and Substack as our website. Contact us anytime right here as well, folks, right at the top, and it's also on the bottom. fairnessinreportingmedia@gmail.com. fairnessinreportingmedia@gmail.com. Everybody stay safe. Safe travels. Peace to all.